So when they went into my history, they concluded that it was my lifestyle in the past. And I remember my doctor, my oncologist telling me that your lifestyle of substance abuse set the foundation for this cancer to attack. My esophagus had been damaged to a certain extent, so it was a matter of time before I suffered. So it's been 5 years since my operation. I thank God for my healing. And so what I try to do now is to try and talk to the young ones so that they do not walk that very traumatizing road that I walked. And so, briefly, that is my story. Of course, I couldn't go into all the nitty-gritty. We might not live here today. So let's leave it at that. So this drug abuse was not only there in my times, it's actually worse today. Today's student is much smarter than students our time, mainly because of the internet. These people can get high under your nose and you'll never tell. You've been with him the whole day, you even went out shopping with him, and he did not leave your side. Or maybe he just moved around to buy something and you could see him. But the kid is high and you cannot tell what has happened. Now, I would like to just introduce you to the most common drugs in our schools today. Okay, first of all, let's define a drug. A drug is any substance, with the exception of food and water. Sorry, thank you. Which, when taken into the body, alters the body's function either physically or psychologically. Drugs may be legal, for example, alcohol, caffeine, and tobacco, or they may be illegal, like the common drugs we all know. So, talking of psychoactive substances, these are substances that affect the body's central nervous system. They change how people behave or perceive what is happening around them. And these substances are both legal. There are legal ones and there are illegal ones. For example, most of our painkillers fall under this category. Pethidine, codeine, morphine, tramadol. These are all psychoactive substances. Heroin, cocaine, all fall under the same. Even alcohol, because it will also depress your central nervous system. So let's first look at the categories. The opioids, like the painkillers we've been talking about, pain relieving with some sedation, opium-based drugs, or those which produce opium-like effects. Depressants, sleep-inducing, anxiety-relieving drugs that affect coordination by reducing the activity of the central nervous system. That is alcohol and sleeping pills. For example, Valium. Then cannabis, mainly for mood elevation, relaxation, and you all know what cannabis is, commonly known as weed. Marijuana. Let's go to the next slide. And then stimulants, increased alertness and reduced appetite. They cause increased alertness, reduced appetite, and sleep, caused by increased activity in the central nervous system. For example, nicotine and cocaine. Sometimes you're wondering why your teenage son does not want to see.
There is a very important point that I wanted to mention. When you are talking to a teenager, are you listening to that teenager? You may actually not be listening. Maybe you are focusing on the newspaper or on English football league, something of that nature. But there's something called emphatic listening. That means you listen with the aim to understand what the person is saying. Because most of us, when we are chatting with somebody else, we are listening with the purpose to reply, to say something after this one has finished. In fact, we are waiting deliberately, when is this person going to finish, so that I can say something. But when you are talking to a teenager, the best thing to do is emphatic listening. Listen so as to understand. Your child, your son or daughter may say, Daddy, I don't want to go to school anymore. I want to do what my friend has done and become a mechanic. What will be your response? Not in my house. I don't want mechanics in this house. You see, do you know who I am? Do you know who your grandfather was? We are all professionals, lawyers, doctors, etc., etc. But he wants you to listen.
For me, this is a very dear subject to my heart because I work most of the time with young people. And doctor was mentioning that to realize that your kid is a drug addict or maybe he is going to, that there's no certain, unless with the other things which you said, the appearance, the manners and what. But for me, I think if, what about the blood test? Will it not reveal if the kid is taking different substance? And the other thing is that the question is to Mr. Albert. During my work with the young people, mostly I talk to them about the effect of the social media and the disadvantage and advantage. And when I was researching, I found that there is something called digital drug, that your kid will be at home using his iPad or using his phone, and then there is a site, certain sites which they can subscribe, and then they will put earphones, and then there will be this kind of waves or what, which will make them really feel high without taking anything or taking drug, but that thing is administered to the brain.
Right.
So
Yes, we do them. In many laboratories in Kampala now, those tests are done. I lecture in a rehab center where when they're doing assessment, the first thing they do is they take your blood and they send it to one of the leading laboratories. Lancet is one of them. They send it to the laboratories and they find out whether you have a drug in there and how much. Usually we ask the person, what is the substance of abuse that you're using? And if we don't get a clear picture, then we do the test. But in most cases, the test is done. So it's there. About the digital substances that are being used, I have some knowledge about e-cigarettes. I don't know if they came across that one. That is a pipe or a small cigarette that is electronically controlled and gives you the same effect as taking tobacco. It is becoming popular in the United States. It has not yet reached our shores. I don't know the mechanism, how does it actually work, but it can cause addiction, unfortunately. But it has become very popular in the United States.
you will talk to them when your butterfly started, but an information to the parent. Nowadays, like our kids are maturing very fast also. You'll find that because the puberty happened in the mind. So our kids nowadays are exposed to lights, are exposed to the internet, everything. The way even we're feeding them will make them go into puberty before time. There are kids which can, like in case of girls, which can have their periods when they're only 9. And in our days, this thing couldn't happen. So I think also we can relate to the general appearance of our kids, their behavior, and talk to them accordingly, not like when we were like having our periods or going to puberty when we were 11, 12. Nowadays it starts at 9, 11, according to the behavior, according to the feeding, according to the schools where we are taking them, because everything happens in the brain. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Every friend at school has a smartphone or a tab, so it depends on your efforts as a parent, what you inculcate in your kid.
Now, our children are very smart. When you tell them something, they go to Google. And some of our children have got iPhone 10, and so they are fast at it. Before even you finish your sentence, they've already gone to Google and they know the answer. Now, I'll give you an instance. When my daughter was in Kampala Parent School. She was 13 years old. And in Kampala Parent School, at that time, they started sex education in school. So they gave all the children, the girls were given male organs, wooden ones, and condoms. Go home and ask your parents to tell you how this is used. Now, I didn't grow up in a society like that. As I told you, if I even mentioned anything like that, my father would beat the daylights out of me. So we never talked about it. Now here, my daughter comes home, and I was not there, I was at work, and says, "Mommy, we have been told to ask you to tell us how does this thing work." Now, this wife of mine, Hadija Hajat, you don't expect her to take this wooden thing and a condom and say, "My dear daughter, this is how it works." She wouldn't do that. But she managed to get out of it and said, "Do you know what? It is your father who is the doctor. When he comes home, you ask him." You see? So here I walk in, I'm sitting there, a few minutes later, my daughter comes and says, "Daddy, we have been told to ask you that how does this thing work?" And Mommy says, "We are the doctor." So I look over my shoulder to see where is Hadija, you know, what has she done? And, but I was brave enough. I said, "Okay, you know what this wooden thing is?" "Yes." "Okay, you take this rubber thing, and this is how you dress it up." And that was the end of the road. Believe me, my pulse was almost 120 at that time, because I had never done it before. To talk to a daughter, can you imagine, we don't do those things in our houses. But these are things that today, in today's world, you have to do that, fortunately, unfortunately. Otherwise, they will Google it. And by the way, let me tell you, our 12 and 13-year-olds are much smarter than we actually think they are. We have a problem today in the whole world of what they call precocious puberty. Girls are getting periods at 9, as you said, even 7, by the way. They're getting it much earlier. So you find that a girl of 11, 12 is not a girl anymore, she's a woman, by the way. And so you have to be careful, you have to be informed. Fathers, if you see your girl with breasts, don't run away to Dr. Shirazi, I can't help you. You would have to sit down with your wife and do something about it. But that is precocious puberty.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I think I have something to share on this great occasion because it's very important. I came a bit late because I started my journey from Nali. I don't want to miss this. Okay, I just want to share to everyone to my experience at home. By profession, I was a teacher when I was in Eritrea for 2 years, and in mathematics and psychology. I used to say, I'm good in psychology, but these days, the way I talk with my kids and everything, then I was asking myself, am I lagging behind or what? Or the psychology I was doing in campus before 25 years, it doesn't work. So I had my principle at home. I always say I have to give a phone to my kids at the age of 16. Maybe it can be wrong, I don't know. Okay, it works with my first daughter. I gave her at the age of 16. When she turned 16, I gave her a phone, she starts a phone. Now she's 21, she's in the university in USA. The same, the second, he's in Galaxy now, grade 10. Of course, I gave him at the age of 15. Now I have my last born, which is now 10, last December. She doesn't have a phone. And I'm still planning to give her at the age of 15 or 16. But there is a challenge. She always asks me, you know, Daddy, my friend, she's 9, she has a phone. She has S5, or I know. Now sometimes I discuss with my madam, what we can do, can we give her? No. Let's follow the kids. Sometimes also I ask, maybe psychologically she'll be affected in the class. When the all kids talking about the phone they have, maybe, sometimes also I ask, maybe she's lying. She wants to get a phone because she wants to take that chances. So I don't know, what do you think about this now? Can I give her the phone?
There's a part where we say, when you set limits and you set your boundaries, stick to them. Kids can be very manipulative. They are your kids, they know you. They know a few strings to pull to get you to react in a favorable manner to their demands. So if it was 15 for the firstborn, 16 for the first, 15 for the second, let her also get one at 16 or 15. Yeah. Do not fall for the manipulations.
Yeah, so he's very right. You need to set borderlines and we work within those borderlines. Otherwise, your children might go far beyond it. And as you know, phones are not very useful things when you keep them stuck near your head. They've got magnetic fields that affect the brain. So be very careful. And some of them, unfortunately, explode. You must have read about it. Now, I'll just quickly give you an example of a parent who tried to be good to his son by rewarding the son so that he can get favors. You see, a lot of people these days, both parents are working. The father is working, the mother is working, so the children are alone by themselves. So you try somehow to win their favors by rewarding them. This is a father who bought a speedboat for his son. It's in Bunyonyo, a speedboat. A bit later, he bought a quad bike, you know those bikes with big tires. And last year, he bought him a Range Rover. The boy is not even 16 yet.
Young people and parents, on the issue of, so you raised the point of, what are the symptoms, characteristics you're going to see your children displaying? And immediately I thought, so what is the underlying problem? What is the cause of these symptoms? I think it's what we should be addressing. And, he's mentioned and other parents have mentioned, maybe just to give you a brief background, I've been called maybe twice or thrice on planes having young people crash. They're coming from school. This is common on KQ, kids returning from Nairobi to Uganda, and they just collapse, and eventually you find out that these are kids from very well-to-do families. I eventually interview them, very wealthy families, and they're on drugs, all these substances. A few times I've had to go ahead and talk to these children, and not so much the parents, but even from other, not just the plane experiences, these children just lack the parents at home. We love our children so much, and we're out there making money to give them everything in life, to buy them the quad bikes, the boats, the Range Rovers, the tablets, the phones, but we are absent. So one boy told me that my father is very rich, but he doesn't have time for me. They live in a mansion that every child has a computer and a TV in their rooms, but the parents are absent. So the children are trying to fill that void. So you subscribe to wireless, internet. The children can access anything that they can. And who do they have for companions? It's their colleagues. And what are they feeding your children with? They're going to feed them with what they know. So I know we are all busy trying to make ends meet and bring in those dollars, but I think we need to prioritize and give our children time. Last week or the week before, my 8-year-old daughter was reading a book from the library, and then she asked me, what are drugs? This book was not inappropriate for her age. Otherwise, I would have raised it with the administration. But there was just that chapter, that paragraph that had substance and all. And, at first I was like, oh, drugs. So I had to break it down. It was a bit abstract, but I tried in my, to explain to her. But how did I get to know that she's even been exposed to that? If probably I was not at home when she was reading the book, should have come and asked anybody, maybe the house help. We are so busy that we have 10 house helps. We have, so many other people taking care of our children, but us. So you cannot say when my child turns this age, I'll teach them about, give them sex education. I've been called to give sex education talks in schools, and I am shocked at what these children know. I would have thought it's international schools where children are really exposed, but even the national curriculum schools, P5 is what age? P4, 5, 10, those questions of condoms, and they are asking you about homosexuality. The questions are so deep, so you cannot push it to another parent or fellow students because they're going to share the wrong information. So it's, our cultures may be quite, difficult to bring up some of those topics, but unfortunately it's the age that we live in. As a parent, you may want to take the lead role in sharing those things. My friends bring their kids and say, can you tell this child about menstruation? How does the girl get pregnant? And I'm like, you also know, but they're like, no, tell them as a doctor, this is and then I have to draw all the reproductive cycle again. But as a parent, you can do something. We may all not be privileged to have that doctor friend to share the information accurately. But, what am I laboring to say in all this? As parents, I think we take the lead role, much as we have to fend for our families, we take the role in shaping their futures. They are going to come up with all sorts of stories. Oh, all my friends go for sleepovers. How come I never go for sleepovers? Have your own standards. My daughter tells me things, the so-and-sos do this, and I tell her, that is the so-and-sos. For us, we have different standards. If that mother's standards are that, my standards are different. But, don't feel that I'm doing this because I don't love you. Try and explain. Just pushing the topic away and say, oh no, you're not going for that school trip. I don't have the money. The child won't understand. They see you with, they'll look in your past and say, but you have money, So take time and explain to the children. They really understand, and you're the best person to shape their, futures, and it will save you a lot of pressure. I don't have pressure from, oh, there's a trip, oh, there's a this. There's always something. Oh, we have to buy this. Oh, this child is wearing this. Can you buy me this? Sometimes it's not something you want to do, but I think when you explain to the child, it makes a whole lot of a difference. My second issue was on the prescription drugs. As they were being described, I felt it was a little bit unfair to some parents who may totally move away from, they'll go to the physicians and they're given codeine and they're like, no, I don't want that drug. Or because these are opioids, and most of these are like basic painkillers that have to be used according to doctors' regulations. We just need to be extra careful. I've taken pethidine myself for severe pain. I know the feeling. Fortunately, I didn't get the effects, but maybe just for the parents, the drugs can be abused. Even Panadol can cause severe side effects. So everything, maybe let's be on top of our game and see what's happening around in our homes and just around your children. Thank you.
Thank you. Discovery Uganda, we produce these magazines quarterly, and we also are into counseling, recovery coaching, and we also handle other mental health issues. She can always give you our information.
The school is the next home for the what? During childhood development, the friends that child makes in schools actually might slip over to adulthood. And I'm glad that you chose your children to come to this school, because it is about meaningful what? Education. I always tell people that money can always be found at any one time. But once God has blessed you with the money, and you don't give your child the best, because some people look at it in terms of money. I'm sure you are challenged by some people who say, why do you, But it's the best investment that you can give to your child, to take them to a school that has meaningful emotional impact. Because many times, like I told you, we never think about the emotional impact that goes around. In schools, what are the people, what are the peers of the child? They actually have a lot of influence. Lifestyle reflects. What is your lifestyle at home. Because each home has a unique lifestyle. What is the galaxy lifestyle around child protection? And I always tell people, at home, whatever that you see is not meaningful. Are you able to transition to make it more meaningful? In whatever environment we are in, are we able to do that? Self-reflection. Are you providing the best childhood experience for your child? But even as children have rights, are you instilling into them values that will help them be responsible? Because much as children have rights, they also have responsibilities. Yes, I have given you a bed to sleep, but you also have the responsibility of waking up. And making the bed. I have given you the food to eat, it is a right, but you also have the responsibility of what? Of eating the food and washing the what? I have given you the right to education, but it is your responsibility to come and read. But with submissive parents, you find them giving them food, then also wanting to feed, then also wanting. Okay. Then you also tell the house help, go and what? Wake up the what? Your mom. So, as we finish, children have rights, but they also have responsibilities. So at whatever age, help them make age-appropriate decisions. Of course, for the younger ones, you always make decisions for them. But even babies, by the way, have rights and responsibilities. I give you the breast to feed, and you do what? Are we together? Yes. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for the opportunity. I've tried to...
I'll pass it to my editor here.
Okay. To the parents should get more involved in their children's lives. Parents ought to understand that there's a lot of negative information out there that can negatively influence their children. So they have to attend such workshops so that they know how to learn how to address these issues in case they arise. And they also play a very critical role in their children's lives. They shouldn't leave parenting to the schools. The drug problem is arguably the biggest threat to the next generation. So if parents are not actively involved, then we are having, what we are doing is all futile. But we've seen some good results even here and other schools whereby if parents are involved, then there are better results. Yeah. So at least parents should endeavor to be part of these workshops.
We have a problem. The more we run away from the problem, the greater becomes the distance between us and the problem. So we need to put our finger on it. It is not something that one may think is existing in my neighbor's house. It may actually even start in your own house. So there is a tendency of people burying their heads into the sand, and that is wrong. As Mr. Albert has said, we need to get involved in our children's lives on a daily, minute-by-minute basis. We are in a world of technology where we talk to our wives and our children through WhatsApp. We don't communicate directly, so we've got little time. In the morning, parents want to go to work. The children want to go to school. In the evening, we are tired. We don't want to talk. So when do we talk? So I mentioned something about emphatic listening. Listen to your child. If your child decides he wants to become a mechanic and you come from a family of professors, Listen to him first. Listen. We don't listen. We listen with the intent to reply. But this one is listening with an intent to understand what is this person saying. Our children are being brought up by the media and their friends, no more by parents. Our parents are absent. We are absentee parents. So we need to revise our curriculum, not our children's curriculum, our own curriculum as parents. Where do we fit in? Where do we fit in? What is our role? What are we supposed to do? How much time do we spend with our children? I was giving an example of parents in the United States, some of them. When it is supper time, they send a WhatsApp message to the children upstairs. Time for supper. The children say, we are just finishing, we are coming. We have also reached that stage now. We need to be careful. Not to look the other way. Sometimes what we do is, because of denial on our part, that this can't be happening to me in my house. My child is not an addict. We try to minimize things. So no, this is not the case. So we use some unprofessional tactics, either to solve the problem or to look the other way. Until then, the problem becomes quite acute. So we need to wake up, because the problem exists in Uganda today, especially because drugs are easily available. Alcohol is a legal drug. It is also sold in sachets. Children can afford it. It's less than 500 shillings a second, so they can afford it. So the media is spoiling things. We watch movies and other things that are actually corrupting our children's brains. So the children are learning things from their peers, not from the parents. A parent has got to step in and say, okay, how was the day today? How can I help you? Yeah.
I'm also, you told us that you have a magazine that you're publishing. Please tell us more about it.
Yeah, this is a quarterly magazine whereby we try to address so many issues, especially regarding addiction. We also tackle parenting and other issues. As you can see, this is our latest issue. How addiction affects the family. Codependence. So how do families relate with children who are using? Because usually when there's someone using in the family, then the family structure is broken down. The blame game starts. Actually, the more you involve in the blame game, the more you run away from the issue. It's already there. Address it. And here, we also talk about the role of parents in fighting addiction. So we try to look at the issue comprehensively and give out as much information to the public as possible. So if anyone can get their hands on this magazine, for example, parents of Galaxy can contact the counseling department. They have copies. There's a lot of useful information. It comes out every 3 months, and the copy is just 10,000 shillings.
It applies because children grow up very fast these days, and they get exposed to things through other friends and older children. So I think it's very important for parents to know this.
Building a strong communication, as in building a strong family foundation between you and your children, as in relating to them, is the way to go for now?
Yes, because if you're able to talk to your children about anything, even when issues of drugs arise, you're able to talk to them. So whatever you teach them now can help in the future, whether they are able to follow it, or if they discover problems, they can fall back on the teaching that you put in them.
Well, first of all, I came late, but not so late though. And I, from where I started, I learned a lot. Actually today, I really learned a lot about drug use and drug abuse. To me, there are certain things that I didn't know that the kids can even do, but I'm grateful today I know them. So this will actually help me to monitor my own kids, my boy, my daughters, at least to see that they grow up to become mature kids and responsible people. Because that's all what gives us as parents pride, you know. it will be unfortunate that I be there for them and then they just go out of hand right under my nose. So I'll give in my best to make sure that they become responsible.
Do you think if you set boundaries for your children, it's going to help them be able to grow up in the kind of children that you want them in the future?
Well, as parents, at least there is one thing that you want out of your child. And not every child you will say, this is this for you, this is that for you. At least every child has his own capability of doing something. So these are the things you need to notice in them as you're setting the boundaries. You know why you are setting the boundaries. You know what you want out of them. You can't compare your kids to someone's kids. So your children are your children. And to me, I did set a boundary. Just to tell you a brief thing I did with my eldest girl, Manuela. She very much wanted to go to, first of all, for a trip to Eastern Uganda. And then we learned Adam has never gone for a trip. So we told, the father said, Manuela, this time you're not going for the trip. At first I was like, if I break this news to Manuela, I know she's going to cry, she's going to feel so upset, and I don't want to see her go through that. So I told the father, you have a lot of effects on Manuela sometimes, so you need to talk to her about this. So then what he did was, he tried talking to her. He just told Manuela, no, you are not going. What you do is, stay, this time Adam should go. Then if there is a daytime trip, then the next person will go. But she wasn't happy because she wanted to go because all her friends were going to Eastern Uganda, so she really wanted to go. But then we told her, no, you can't go. She was, of course, crying, but that was it. She had nothing to do. Then there came the trip to Egypt. Just the beginning of the week, she came to me with a letter. Mom, Miss Allen said she very much wants all the year 6 to go for the trip. I told her, Manuel, I guess you are lying. She told me, no, I'm not lying, that's the truth. I picked her phone. I said, I'm calling the school to find out if that's the truth. She said, please call. I said, okay. I called. Miss Allen said, no, it's not compulsory. So, Manuela, you need to talk to her. I told her, yes, because when we started talking about the trips, we know she's sitting for her final exams. She is not going anywhere. She has to stay around to read. That's the whole point. So during that break that she will be having in Feb, instead of going for a trip, let her stay around to read and relax. So she didn't want it. She wanted to go. But, I had to talk to her. I told her, Manuela, this was our decision. Your father and I decided you're not going for that trip. And that's it. And I'm going to tell your father later, you are not going for that trip, and I have said it. Of course, she was crying. I told her, no. Cry, finish crying. The anger or whatever emotional feeling you have inside you, finish it up, then we will talk. And of course, we talked after that. She went away smiling, because after explaining to her why I don't want her to go for the trip, because she has to be around. From February, she has to start concentrating on her studies. If she had asked me for books, I was going to buy for her the books. Of course, I'm not sending her to school to go and fail. She's sitting for final exams. How would you feel she gets like a second class, let me say, when she didn't do well and she was on the trip, she's going to exhaust herself. So I explained to her, I told her, okay, what I will do, I'll talk with Dad, we'll organize for a trip to go to Egypt. Then you go to visit the museum, we go as a family, you visit the museum. The pyramid, you have already seen it, we were in Cairo one time, she had already seen the pyramid. So there is nothing more, only the museum and going to Alexandria. So that's it. So she was happy at least, and now she knows she's not going on the trip and she will not go.
Very well handled.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
They have really, they have their own testimony on their personal experience on being alcoholic, and then the information which they gave is really relevant to today's young people's challenges which they might face, and it was an eye-opener. Even if it's not happening to our kids, we can relate it to the other kids who are around us, and especially like for me personally, I interact with young people, I facilitate with them some seminars, so I really benefited a lot, and they were so open, and it was really very good. As parent, I appreciate it, and I would like the school also to keep on bringing such people, because nowadays what I really think that our kids' privileges and their innocence is being abused by the technology, by the exposure, by many things.
Does Daddy have something to share with us?
Yeah, the only thing that I can add is that actually it is a learning experience, and at the same time it would be good also if they could have the sessions with the students themselves, because the experience related by the first speaker was a personal experience at his teenage, so that if he can tell also those who have the same age of how he slept into that situation and how he come back, this would be good for the students. But for us, it is an eye-opener, and we will be careful, especially in terms of drugs. We will be very careful of how to deal with drugs and how to to take care of our kids in the house in related to drugs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Child protection was the first workshop that we had. What thoughts and reflection about whatever the different facilitators are trying to tell us about?
The first workshop, mainly about drug abuse. It was very important, most especially to create benchmarks in our respective homes, because many times as parents we under a lot of pressure from what the kids demand. For example, the number of trips they have to go to, the amount of things that they need to buy, the fact that they need gadgets. But it was very important from the workshop that we got to know that you need to create benchmarks at home, to know that certain things need to be done your way. If, for example, a gadget to a child should be given at 15, if a child has not attained 15, they don't have to have that gadget. So it was a very important aspect of that.
Sticking to principles and
Yes.
setting boundaries.
Yes, it was very important. Yes.
So the workshop was really good. Well, we've learned so much, especially to do with setting our own rules as a family and building values as a family, so that we're not always on tension and pressure from kids, and we're not always submissive to them. They must know that there are limits to everything. There are limits to everything, and like we're told, they also have responsibilities. Much as we have a duty to provide to them, they also have responsibilities in terms of their behavior, in terms of academic excellence, in terms of what we expect from them as parents, and they also must deliver to us.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Where children are exposed to so many different things, and parenting in the 1900s is becoming totally different from this age. So as parents, it's very important that we keep learning the new advances and know what our children are being exposed to, what our children are learning. You know, we are learning on the job to be parents. So we have had a very informative and educative session, which I appreciate. And thank you for organizing this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Julie.
So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, and I would like to first actually thank the management for organizing such a workshop. I think it's really very useful. Yeah, so the information we have got, so many things that we didn't know earlier. So I think the workshop is very useful to get know more about the drugs which are being used these days, because many of the names I have felt that I didn't even know the names even. So I think these were very useful information, especially in the second session, in the question and answering sessions, the issues came up, and especially about the girls, that why they are actually having their menstruations very earlier. So those things of changes. So those information were very, very useful, I feel. So altogether, I felt this was a really very, very useful information for the parents. And also one question actually came into my mind, but during the workshop I got the answer that actually from which stage or from which age should we actually pass this information to the kids, to the children, when we should share with these things. So I think because one of the participants actually shared that she at the age of 8 even she shared with with her son. So I think my feeling is that sooner is better. As long the child, I think, reach to the primary age, we should, I think, talk about these things, which is actually happening around us. It's my feeling. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, you're best.